What's up, guys? Today we are going to be taking a look at the newest dev blog, the Q&A Mailbag Alliance War Edition. Now, they also had some follow-up comments answering questions about this on Reddit, so I've got that pulled up, so we'll talk about that as well. And then finally, there's a little leak that came across my feed earlier, so I think you guys might be interested in seeing that as well, so I threw that in at the end. But let's get into it. So for those of you that don't know, I am super hyped for Alliance Wars. I have been looking forward to it as my most desired game mode since the second I got into the game. I absolutely love PvP, so I have high expectations for this game mode. So yeah, here's what I'm thinking. So first and foremost, they wrapped up the first round of external playtests, so there will be more external playtests. Around 200 players took part and gave feedback, and they thanked all the alliances that were in it. So first things first, the 12-hour timer. So when we first heard about the 12-hour timer, a lot of people were asking me what I thought about that, and I had been telling people it doesn't mean anything. We don't know if you just, have 12 hours to do 30 minutes worth of stuff, or if you have 12 hours to do 4 hours worth of stuff, or if you need to be on standby throughout the entire 12 hours. It didn't mean anything, so now we have some more info on that, which is firstly that the entire war was originally planned to last 12 hours, and it says here, based on feedback, they've extended it to 24 hours. So I don't know if that's, the extra 12 hours are necessary. I haven't played in an Alliance War, but, giving people more time, especially if the players have been asking for it, sounds like it wouldn't be a problem. Now, I especially like this part. The current plan is to schedule war 2 or 3 days a week instead of daily. So obviously, I wouldn't mind a daily Alliance War, but for a lot of people's schedules, adding that extra time to be playing the game to try to stay competitive might not fit into their schedules. So doing it 2 or 3 days a week is going to work for a lot of people. You're going to start seeing alliances include that in their recruiting, like we do war Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or we do Alliance War just Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is, and that way people will be able to join an alliance that wars when it's convenient for them to war. So I like that quite a bit. This next point here, go wide or well-rounded rosters.
I told you so, 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 I told you so.
Sorry, I don't know what that was. But anyway, so go wide or well-rounded rosters.
Not the kind of person to say I told her so, but you know what? I told her so. I told her so.
Yeah, again, I don't know what that was, but anyway, so specifically relating to the gameplay, I have been telling people for a while now to go wide roster for a lot of reasons, in addition to, of course, Alliance War. Not that I've known that it would benefit Alliance War, but I've played enough games like this where it kind of seemed typical. You can never quite account for what the best offense or defense strategies are going to be, because we don't know what the unique bonuses are room to room. But just as an example, there might be a room that gives a bonus to brawlers. So if you've been completely neglecting your brawlers because you've just been focusing on 1 or 2 teams, the likelihood that the 1 or 2 teams you've been working on, which is people who've gone tall roster, will hold up and be usable in every situation is slim to none. So that's why I've always said, get as many characters as you can up to a fairly usable, level. You're gonna have rare resources that it's okay to selectively put into your better characters, but ultimately try to get as many characters as you can up to a decently usable point. That way, if in the future you need to pivot to them and bring them up, they're not, still level 2 with green gear. You want to be able to make use of them. So it does say, in short, every hero counts. The wider your roster, the more strategies that will open up for you and your alliance. But yeah, it looks like people who have gone tall roster won't be completely left out in the rain. They'll still be able to jump in and make an impact. On here, alliance planning. Coordinating with your alliance will be the key to victory, so that's very promising. I'm really hoping that a lot of the gameplay is specifically working with your alliance, and when they say coordinating, they mainly mean talking about who has which characters and who to put where, deciding who's going to defend what room, who's going to save which team for attack, and making sure that you have the right units in the right rooms to get the right bonuses to pose the most pain-in-the-ass defense while making sure that you have enough people with enough strong characters left over for offense. And they do say, I want to say it's in one of the Reddit responses, that most of the defense planning happens when there's not a war going on. So most of the coordinating is simply coordinating a plan of attack. But it sounds like the enemies you'll be facing will be boosted versions of your enemy's defenders based on room bonuses and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see, who has the right teams to counter. So for example, there might be a room where, everyone is just getting 20% health regen on every turn or whatever it is. Again, I don't know that that's one. I'm just throwing out an example. So you might want to try to figure out, all right, like who has a high level Mordo for the heal blocks to go into that room, whatever it is. Setting defenses. So in Alliance War, the best offense is a good defense. There are 12 rooms to defend your helicarrier. Your Alliance will need to decide where to place rooms in your helicarrier, how many characters from your roster will defend a room. So they do mention this detail, which is concerning, which is if you don't place a team, it will by default be guarded by a shield team with a power of 13,000. That they might as well not be there. Those are just bodies. They're just helping people get cooldowns back. So I think what they're trying to say is, they won't leave the room empty, but you're better off putting some crappy characters in there than leaving it with the standard characters. So if literally that's all you've got, it will still be manned by someone or something. But if you've got some bodies to put in there, you probably should. So on to the room bonuses. So obviously I would have really liked details about what the room bonuses are, but we don't have that yet. But they are explaining that they have positive and negative effect stat boosts. So that's interesting. The negative effect stat boosts interesting as well. But destroying certain rooms weaken teams across an entire enemy helicarrier, and destroying other rooms earning more points. So eliminating the med bay wipes out a global health boost. Blowing up the bridge grants a team 250 points. So you're going to have to be strategic about which rooms you take out when. For example, you might not be able to take out, a room with a bunch of tech characters until you take out some other room that's enhancing armor. Otherwise they're going to be, just taking like 10% damage the entire time, whatever it is. So looking forward to seeing how that actually plays out. Again, we don't know what the bonuses are, but if you want to better understand specifically the type of gameplay I'm referring to, I did a video not too long ago titled Everything We Know About Alliance War So Far, or something like that. And it has a lot of the data mine details on what they were originally thinking for a lot of this stuff, so you can go check that out. On to the heal mechanic. Now, this is a big part of it. So my main concern for this game mode, and it's not just my main concern, but pretty much everyone I talk to's main concern, is that they don't want this game mode to be pay to win. Now, obviously, you have to have some opportunity for it to be pay to win. When you have whale alliances going against whale alliances, you want to give them the opportunity to have to try to outspend one another. But the big concern is that you don't just have, alliances with weaker players who are just willing to buy lots of heals or whatever it is and just cruise past everyone, even if they haven't actually done the work and they're not using the right strategy. You don't want them to just keep throwing bodies at a room until they clear the enemy helicarrier. So They don't give a lot of specific details. It says it's gone through many iterations based on player feedback, so it's interesting that they've already changed it up a bit. Some liked and some didn't like the original mechanic, but they don't really talk about what that is. It set a playstyle around having to wait around, constantly monitoring your team and then jumping in to heal them. Yeah, that's not a good mechanic. Healing only helps characters that survived a battle, so you can't heal characters that were knocked out. That makes sense. We didn't like how this felt, but we did see a lot of opportunity for strategy based on alliances coordinating attacks to bring down strong enemy targets. We've adjusted the mechanics so you can boost a defense team before they get attacked. So that's nice that you can boost a defensive team before they get attacked. I'm interested to see how exactly you'll know that they're about to be attacked, or if you just have to guess, or if the boosts only last so long, so if you throw up the boost, you're I guess deterring them from attacking you during that window. So my guess is that's where more of the spending is going to happen, is people trying to deter an attack will invest in a defense boost. But again, without having more specifics about what this costs, it doesn't tell us much. Just that they've switched to more of a boosted defense than specifically heal, which does sound better. War store, so just like Blitz, Arena, and Raids, War will also have a store with a dedicated currency. You can purchase character shards that can only be found in the War store. So a lot of people have been asking, when are we going to get this character? When's this character going to be available? Any idea if they have plans to bring this character back in a blitz? And so they're saying that, there will be character shards that are only available in the War store. So I'll be interested to see if we get like a War store exclusive character in addition to the ones that are only going to be available there. But so my guess is a lot of the characters people have been asking about are gonna show up in there. And then they also say there will be orange, purple, and blue gear materials. So if there are orange uniques in there, then that will mean that there will be more opportunity for people to do Fear the Darkness in the near future. So hopefully we see some orange uniques in there. But even just the standard orange gear, it's gonna be a big help in getting characters real close. The store is still in discussion and could see changes. Well, we'll have to wait and see. So here's the Q&A section. So people asked, how long will the Alliance War seasons last? Will there be a milestone style similar to raid season milestones? So they said the same 2-week war seasons just like raid seasons and no milestones planned. Okay, I hope they eventually add milestones just because extra rewards are nice. They later talk about how most of the rewards are not going to be from the war seasons, but I'm hoping for some juicy war seasons rewards. But anyway, again, they don't give us a lot of specifics here, so I wouldn't read too much into a lot of the stuff that we're covering right now because it's a lot of vagueness and a little bit of platitudes. Kind of light on the specifics, and the specifics when it comes down to it are really what matters a lot. Like with red stars, knowing exactly what percent stats they modify and exactly how likely you are to pull one and how often you're going to get a red star orb, things like that really tell you a lot more than just, oh, it's a way to make your characters more powerful that you can pull from an orb. So until we see some numbers, can't really give any strong opinions on this, but from what we're seeing, here's a suggestion. Can we get a clear defenses button? So setting up a defense is of course part of war, a major factor in strategy. One of the most common feedback notes was Alliance leaders were asking for a way to clear defenses in rooms rather than have to contact the person who set the defense to log on and clear it. So they said that they're looking into adding this quality of life feature, and yeah, that strikes me as something that definitely should be in there. The officers and the leader of the Alliance should definitely have the ability to make executive calls, especially in matters of war. Are the strongest alliances getting the best rewards? So, regardless of your total collection or strongest team power, underdog alliances will have the same rewards for winning and losing as more powerful alliances do. So, that's interesting that a low-level war is going to have the same victory and defeat rewards as a high-level one. And then they said there will be season rewards, but the bulk of the rewards will come from individual war earnings. So it's interesting that most players are going to see generally, as long as they have similar win rates, most players are going to see generally the same amount of Alliance War rewards for both high and low level war. So that's an interesting call, but keeps it balanced. When is the full version of Alliance War expected to go live? Soon TM, and that's pretty much all they say, is almost there. I would guess, and this is purely a guess, it's not based on anything I've heard, just based on what I'm seeing here, probably not the next patch, which is expected like late February, early March, probably closer to late February, but probably the patch after that, and they're generally like 6 weeks each-ish, so imagine like 6 weeks from March 1st, ballpark would be the patch that I would guess would be bringing Alliance War. So again, don't put too much stock in that, that's just my guess, but that's about what it sounds like to me. Will defensive victories come into play when it comes to scoring? So this next part that we're about to cover concerns me quite a bit. So they're not doing defensive scoring, and they said they found it discouraged players to attack because they did not want to give up points. But I mean, if they're going to need to get a certain amount of points to win, I can't see them not wanting to attack if the only way to get points is to ultimately clear the room. I don't know. I think defense points are a big part of it. If the enemy team clears the same amount that you do, but they had to use 5 times as many teams to do so because they were just throwing bodies senselessly at your defense, absolutely, you should win for that, all, everything else being equal. So I do hope that they add in defensive scoring, but I haven't seen how the offensive scoring is handled, so I don't know how necessary it is. But this is another part that really concerns me, but the fact that they're open to feedback is good news. If we don't consider defensive wins, how will ties be approached? So they said currently ties are considered losses. Both alliances receive defeat rewards and respective ranking points. That seems like a huge issue to me. That is a huge red flag. I can't fathom how that seems like a good idea. I think the concept might be like to make alliances panic and be like, well, we want to make sure there's not a tie, so rather than get defeat rewards, let's make sure that we push on and beat the opponent. But you're supposed to do that by making victory rewards better than defeat rewards. But the fact that a tie is considered both alliances losing, that there must be a smarter way to handle that. So they've said considered adding options like bonus points for certain criteria, like first alliance to knock out all opponents. That sounds great. I can see tons of different criteria where you could basically introduce tiebreaker points. If ties start happening at a higher rate than expected, we can consider different solutions. They don't expect them to be very common in the current system. I don't know what their definition of very common is, but with just 200 players, they've already had some ties. That to me seems like a huge issue. It's not a very difficult thing to just add in enough things that determine a tiebreaker, even if it's just defensive scoring or overall collection power placed on defense versus overall collection power used on offense, or whatever it is. There's a lot of different ways to handle tie breaking, and simply just saying, well, if there is a tie, both alliances lose, seems like not only a lazy way out, but just a really detrimental thing to do. So I really hope that changes, but again, I don't know the specifics. If it ends up that with the current system a tie is a 1 in 10,000 occurrence, then I guess it's not so bad, but still, just there should be ways to avoid a tie, or at the very least, just put in like draw rewards somewhere in between victory and defeat rewards. If there's not a fair way to settle ties, then just give draw rewards, but don't punish alliances for being too evenly matched. Anyway, moving on. What level of time commitment do you expect from alliances competing seriously? So they do have later. They do have later comments on this, but they said we expect war participation to be between 45 minutes and an hour a day after alliances have played a few times and settled into a groove. So that's not too bad. An extra 45 minutes to an hour a day, and I hear a lot of people who are hearing that and like, oh god, another hour put in this game? I don't have that in my schedule. But you got to remember that they're looking at it running 2 or 3 days a week, and your alliance will be able to schedule those days, so you'll do it on days where you're free. But you want war to be fun. You don't want war to be like a quick 10-minute thing and then that's it, you're done with war. Like, this is a big game mode. You want it to occupy some time, and if it's fun, it's less about the amount of time that it takes. But a lot of people worry about having to spend even another 5 minutes in the game, but I think the large majority of people are fine with having a little bit more to do. I, for one, have no issue with having more to do, so I'm pretty happy about that. How will cheaters be handled? So there's really no specifics in this section. They basically just say, we're improving our methods of cheat detection. We're as serious as we've ever been about punishing cheaters, and we're going to continue to get even better at punishing cheaters. So, that's what you expect them to say. You don't expect them to say, if they cheat, they cheat. No, of course they're going to say, we're gonna be all over it, and we know our cheat prevention isn't perfect, but it's getting there, and we're gonna stay the course. So we'll see how prevalent cheating is. I have not seen much cheating at all in any game mode lately, so I'm not too worried about it. Regarding the time to set up defenses, will this be set up the same as the attack phase, where there's a timer, or will it be open whenever a war is not running? Defenses are meant to be set up when war is not running. There will be a short matchmaking phase where it'll be locked out right before a war starts. Otherwise, you can set up your defenses whenever there isn't an active war running. So I like that you'll be setting up your defense beforehand, and then once the war starts, you're just on offense. So I like that quite a bit. Are any more controls for setting defense going to be added, setting which players are in which rooms? So touch on this earlier as well, but they basically said it's something that they want to add to it in the future, but it won't be available during the initial launch. Alliance officers will be able to kick player defenses from a room, making it easier to adjust defenses. We plan to add more quality of life features to setting defenses in future iterations. So there's not going to be that much control at first, but they're going to add more. So, that's all you can ask of them. I'm sure they have plenty that they're working on right now, so it doesn't sound like that's super, super critical. Basically, instead of an officer being able to do something, it'll mostly just be the person who's, chosen to defend that room. You'll have to get in touch with them and have them do it, whatever. Will alliances with members largely in similar time zones have a significant advantage if more players can monitor and react during the offensive part of Alliance War? There was a lot of discussion. We feel the switch to 24 hours will help quite a bit. We're also revamping the heal system so there's less need to be constantly watching on defense, which would be tough to do. So I like that you don't need to be constantly watching, especially if it's 24 hours. That's way better. You don't want to be constantly watching on defense. Oh my god, that would be a nightmare. So they also said war energy starts with 2 attacks, which should help counter any coordinated attacks at the start of war. We don't really know what that means, so we have to take their word for it, but we'll see when we get it. But it does sound like there will still be some advantage to people playing in similar time zones, but again, if the overall goal of the game mode is to encourage coordination with your alliance, you want to be able to coordinate, with at least a few people working together at around the same time. And, not so much like you do your part and then 4 hours later someone logs in and does their part and then 8 hours later you log in and do your part. That's not quite the level of engagement you typically think of when you think like actively coordinating with your alliance. Are you planning on augmenting any of the current roster of characters to have war-specific buffs and abilities like War Machine? Yes, we're going to be adding a new military trait that provides additional bonuses to characters while they're in war. War Machine will be one of the first to have it, and more are on the way. So, looking forward to see who's going to get that military tag. I can think of a ton of existing characters that would definitely deserve that military tag. And then, I can think of some upcoming characters that I've heard rumor of that would get that tag as well. How did you foresee individuals dividing their roster when designing the mode? Did you anticipate each player splitting half for attack, half for defense, or did you have other combinations in mind? The goal is to create a system with a lot of different strategies. We've seen that in the playtest. We're excited to see how this expands when the mode releases, as new characters are added. One interesting strategy we saw was players using smaller squads of 1 to 3 characters to try and take out weaker opponents. In most cases, it was a high-risk, high-reward move that, if successful, allowed that alliance to reserve other players for defense or extra attacks. So that's interesting that people are, using a more handicapped version of a team to stash those players on defense. So, again, this doesn't mean much without seeing, what the bonuses are. But, this is kind of hard for them to foresee. Obviously, they could build it in a way that kind of forces you to go one way or the other, but ideally you want to build it like this, where the players come up with the strategies and just what emerges as the more optimal strategy is what emerges. Again, I haven't seen War, so I have no idea, but based on what I have seen so far, I would guess that putting as much strength as you can into your defense and withholding just what you need to get by to launch a successful offense sounds like it's going to be the most effective tactic, but again, I don't have any of the details, so your guess is as good as mine. Finally, do we have another round of playtests to look forward to? Yes, we're excited to get some more playtime on this build. Alright, so more playtests are coming. But so now we're going to hop over to Reddit, where they had some follow-up answers to questions people had about this dev blog. So someone asked, what are the minimum or maximum characters that may attack at once or defend a given room? And they said the battles are 5v5. 5 characters are the max that may be on a defense or attack team, but you can attack or defend with as few as 1. When you choose a room to defend, you can set up to 8 teams. The unassigned slots will be filled with members of the shield minion team. So, again, just the fact that there's 24 members of an alliance, and there's 12 rooms and teams of 5 in each room, it sounds like, if my math is right, it sounds like people can put their best 5 characters in each room. Like half the alliance can put their best 5 characters in a room, and then the other half of the alliance will still have their top 5 team for offense, and then the 12 who put on defense will have to use their next best top 5, so their 6 through 10 team for offense. So I'll be interested to see how much diversity we actually see. I hope they were good about the room traits encouraging a lot of diversity in the game mode. But next up, will there be affiliation requirements in the rooms? So they said there are no trait requirements. So I think this is a little bit misleading, not because I expect them to have trait requirements, but I think that rooms will encourage traits. And again, I haven't seen anything except what I shared with you guys in the other video from the data mine. But so if it says, and again, this is just purely an example, but if there's a room that says, hero brawlers gain 40% damage in this room, that's not a trait requirement. Like, you don't have to put hero brawlers in that room, so they can say it's not a trait requirement, but at the same point in time, for all practical purposes, you're like, I really want to throw some brawlers in there. We need brawlers. Like, if we don't have brawlers, we can fill other stuff, but you get what I'm saying. So I think that's misleading, but until we see the numbers, it may not be. I don't know. How will alliances be matched by total collection power? Initial matches will have alliances matched by total collection power. As time goes on, win-loss rate will further adjust who you get matched up against, so that's pretty standard. They just kind of look at who's ranked similarly for the first few matches and just kind of let them randomly smash together, because otherwise you'd have really low alliances fighting against really high alliances if it was totally random when it first starts. And then they said as time goes on, win-loss will further adjust, so I fully expect it to be like any other game like this, where if you keep winning, your opponents will keep getting tougher, and if you keep losing, your opponents will keep getting easier, until you eventually land in a spot where you're roughly having a 50-50 win rate. And as you improve and get better, if you're able to steadily improve and win 2 out of every 3, then you'll start to climb and face higher opponents. But I'm interested to see how this will ultimately impact the war season rewards. So that remains to be seen. How are you ensuring that you don't end up fighting the same alliances over and over? So they said we have a system in place that will help prevent this from happening too often. Again, we have to take their word for it. That wasn't very specific, but if they say that you're not going to be fighting against the same alliances too often, then so be it. Are there 5-minute timers in battle as in arena, or no timer like Blitz? They said yes, there's a 5-minute timer to help prevent players from locking out targets. So I do think that there's probably a better solution than specifically a match timer, but overall the concept of you don't want one person locking out that match for other people by entering, and then they get called for something, some emergency, and they have to put their phone down and run outside and help with something, and then they're just there and no one else can get in that room. So I totally get it. So that concludes everything that they had to say in addition to what was said in the dev blog. So the last thing that I just want to share with you guys real quick, someone sent this to me shortly before I started recording this video. So as you guys know, I've leaked a few things here and there, and apparently I'm a bit of a trendsetter. You'll never guess who decided to get in on the whole leaking thing. Foxnext support decided to try their hand at leaking. So this is an excerpt from a conversation here. A support representative wrote, "Now regarding the Dark Dimension reward that you got, I highly advise you to hold on to it. There may be future releases of characters that would need that gear, and we never know. The Phoenix Force, aka Jean Grey, might be released soon, and she may need that gear part to get buffed up. Also, I'll go ahead and take this as a suggestion as well, a feature wherein players can choose to reroll items that they get in-game. For now, I'll be closing this ticket, blah blah blah, generic copy pasta." I have no idea what prompted this support person to write this. It seems really out of place, but for whatever reason, this seemed like a reasonable thing for them to write. So they said it, and here we are. So technically they wrote, "We never know. The Phoenix Force Jean Grey might be released soon," but given the fact that Foxnext is an offshoot of Fox Studios, who has always had the rights to all the X-Men, and there's a movie coming out, I believe it's scheduled for June, which is X-Men Dark Phoenix. It certainly makes sense, and it does line up with rumors I've been hearing flying around. So yeah, I think it's a fun little leak from a member of their support staff, who hopefully is still a member of their support staff a week from now. But that is that's all I got for you guys today. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about Alliance War. You know, what your hopes for the mode are, what parts of this concern you. But I'm super hyped for Alliance Wars, and I plan on really digging into a lot of the strategy behind Alliance Wars, so you guys will see plenty of content from me regarding Alliance Wars. Otherwise, I have been working on a really fun video. Once I post the video, you'll understand why. I don't want to spoil it yet, even though plenty of people have heard me talking about it, but it's taken me a good while, longer than I expected, to finally be able to release the next video I'm working on, but I promise you it will be a good one. And I am working on it as quickly as I can. It's just a bit of a matter of RNG, actually, if I'm able to capture some of the things I want to capture. But so I will have that video out for you guys in the not too distant future. Otherwise, I stream every single day on Twitch, twitch.tv/Khasino at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Come check it out. But otherwise, that's it. I will see you guys real soon. Peace!